Good afternoon. Let me see if this is working. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is your host, Michael J. Long. Good afternoon. This is your host, Michael J. Long, host of Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party at 7:20 p.m. on June the 25th, 2021. And thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. So what I want to talk about, there we go. That was a little too close to comfort. As you probably know, I've been testing. So what I've been doing is I've sort of been testing out to see if my microphone and my radio transmitter works with the software that I'm using. All right. So side issue, I got it all working. But that's what I've been doing the past few days. Now, there's an interesting video that I encourage you guys to check out where Nick Gillespie of Reason Magazine interviews Justin Amash, who was elected as a Republican during the Tea Party wave and then became an independent during the Trump administration before briefly becoming affiliated with the Libertarian Party and was the only member of the the only member of Congress to be an affiliate of the National Libertarian Party and the only Libertarian member of Congress. And then he finished his term and didn't run for one reason or the other. So now he can do more with the party. And the interview I thought was pretty good because he sat down with Justin Amash, and Justin Amash spoke about what was going on with the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, which most people probably don't know about outside of the Libertarian Party, and what the Libertarian Party can do to improve itself and so forth. And the progress that we have made as libertarians and so forth. So I encourage you guys to check out that video if you can through Reason. It's on their YouTube page, and you can go check it out. And speaking about YouTube, if you like what you hear and you like what you see in terms of my video content, please hit the subscribe button. Click the subscribe link, then click the notification bell and select all, and you will be notified of all video content or live streams on my YouTube channel, Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party. Now, if you want to find my YouTube channel, it's https www.youtube.com/c/Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party. It's the easiest way you can remember. So I think the dot is a semicolon, so there's one on the top and one on the bottom. So, anyways, that's the URL for you guys to subscribe and find the channel. And so what I'm going to do is this coming Monday, I'm going to interview Daniel Donnelly, who is the chairman of the Dutchess County Libertarian Party, and that'll be interesting. And that video will be up as well once the interview completes, and so forth. So please, if you love my content, please consider subscribing. All right. So the basic sense. I want to talk I just thought the whole interview was pretty good. I didn't watch the whole thing, of course, so, but if you're interested in it, I can probably, well, I can probably um, post it on the description page. All right, so here's the deal. We have made so much progress in recent years. Gary Johnson, as you know, got a little over 4%. Well, 3% was the actual total he got. So just a little over 4%. But he got 3% of the vote, or close to 4% almost, but still relatively within the range of 3%. Which, and one of the things that Justin mentioned is that we have a plurality of independents. Now, there's 24% who say they're Republicans and maybe 47 something percent that say they're Democrats. Now, you figured in every single election cycle, they get about 25% of the vote each. So the Democrats will get 25% of the national polls in the general election, and the Republicans will get 25%, right? And so, really, what it comes down to is independence, and the media knows this. So they scapegoat the independents and tell them, look, you have to pick a team that we choose. You have to select either Republican or Democrat, because if you don't, and you vote for the Libertarian Party, or any third party for that matter, could be the Constitution Party, the Green Party, the Booze Moose Party, Tiddlywinks Party, I don't care what party it is, right? The whole argument that you constantly hear is that you're going to split the vote from the Democrats, or you're going to split the votes from the Republicans, and the Democrats will win, right? But if that happens, right, then you're never really going to make any change, because all the independents are going to go one way or the other between the two major parties, and nothing is really going to change, because nothing has changed. For the past 200 years, we've had Democrats and Republicans running the show. And with very few change, and most of the changes that were made at a cultural level. So, something to keep into consideration here. Hopefully there's no fire drill. So the point is, they're going to scare you. And they're going to tell you, you have to vote Democrat or Republican. And what most independents should understand is that the media is full of garbage, because they're either owned by the Democrats or by the Republicans. And guess who's running the national government and all your state governments? That's right, Democrats and Republicans. And both major parties are interested in siding with countries like Israel that are beating the trash out of innocent men, women, and children that are Palestinians. And, a whole bunch of other stuff. You can listen to Richard Medhurst. He, on his YouTube channel, he'll tell you all about it. But I'm going to give you guys a solution here. And the solution is, at least in my opinion, feel free to find your own solution if you don't agree with what I'm coming at. But I think the independents should probably register with the Libertarian Party and vote Libertarian. They might be surprised of what results that come about, because libertarians believe in a world that is, well, let me summarize it for you like this: less government, less taxes, maximum freedom. That's right, less government, less taxes, so you keep more of what you earn, and maximum freedom. So you're going to, with that, and with the inclusion of federalism, localism, in between that, right? But most importantly, individual rights. So people should be able to decide for themselves what they choose to put in their own bodies, how they choose to raise their children, spend their money, how they choose to live their lives, what they choose to put in their own bodies, who they choose to do business with, so on and so forth. So as long as they don't impose danger, force, or fraud to others. And that's the main astra of the Libertarian Party. That's our platform. That's what we believe. That's what we support. That's what libertarians like myself support. Now, I can't say that I agree with the anarcho capitalists and all that 100%. And to be straightforward with you, no libertarian or nobody for that matter is going to agree with each other 100% of the way. And that's regardless of what political philosophy they have. And it just seems like the media is trying to sit there and say, if you're conservative, whatever the Republican Party supports, that's what you got to support. What if you're a Democrat, whatever the Democrats support, that's what you got to support. And that's a bunch of garbage. And I'm telling you straight out, that's just so the solution. And look, if you want to vote Democrat or Republican, that's fine. But you're gonna reap what you sow. And if that's what you like, that's fine. That's your decision. But I feel where it becomes an issue is then these people target libertarians and third party supporters. So I get that there's going to be 24, 25% that are going to vote Republican, maybe 47 or 25 even that might vote Democrat. And you figure Democrats got a total registration of 47% of the population, but only 25% vote for the Democrats. So what does that tell you? You know, and 25 for Republicans. Now, conservatives are still mad crazy about Donald Trump and, oh, you stole the election, you know, but when Trump was first elected, what you heard was Russia Gate and this and that. And then when Trump lost, oh, they rigged the election on Donald Trump and it was a coup and this and that. So, I mean, it's these games that the supporters of the two major parties engage in. So there's a voter base that supports the garbage, and you know the only thing we can do is outvote them. And the only way we're going to do that, there's a recognition that there's a plurality of independents. And so if you are an independent voter or an independent in general, I think you should consider voting libertarian. I mean, especially if you want the government to just leave you alone. I mean, throughout the country, there's asset forfeiture going on all over the country. It's being shoved down our throats by the Fed, supported by the state governments. And you got guys like the governor of Texas, for example, Greg Abbott, a Republican, no less. Oh, people that come here illegally, oh, let's just throw them over the border like hand grenades and deport. And we've been having the same discussion for now the past 3-4 years. Now, when Rick Perry was governor of Texas, he said the same things. And now, because he was appointed under the Trump administration and Greg Abbott's got elected and took over, and guess what? We still, down there, they still got the same talking points. And people like Governor Andrew Cuomo here in New York State, and people like Governor Greg Abbott down in Texas, and Ron DeSantis of Florida, and Governor Newsom, and all these other freaking governors, what's the first thing they do? They turn around and they support asset forfeiture, whether it be for corporations like the big oil companies. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but they probably shouldn't get the government involved in their affairs and what they do. They should probably learn to negotiate with the homeowners. If they can't buy property, then they should find somewhere else to set up shop. But oh no, if you own property in Texas and there's an ounce of oil on your property, they can set up shop because they own the mineral rights to your land and all that. That's throughout the whole state of Texas, folks. And people want to go there? And it's mostly conservatives, and then the people that live there or were born there, they don't like the fact that the conservatives from the north are moving in and trying to outvote them. So yeah, I can see there's a problem with that, right? You know, but That's what's going on, and it's causing a rift because the two major parties are so hip. It's like running a marathon, right, without the proper resources or energy to do so. Imagine you have no feet, no legs, and you have, I mean, the only way you're going to run a marathon at that point is if you have prosthetic legs or feet, or else you got to have someone push you on a wheelchair. Either way, doing it without the means to do it, you're not going to win the marathon. But if you're on the team of big government, none of that matters because the House always wins in the end unless there's a change in the House. It's like a poker game, but people ignore the fact that the Democrats and the Republicans, at least most independents, however, are usually ignore the fact that, or at least some do. Many do. I don't want to say all, but many do. Oh, the Libertarian Party, you can't win and this and that. It's probably going to take some time before we get ranked voting or choice voting, whatever it's called. But in the meantime, I think independents should consider their options a little bit more thoroughly and understand that the media is bought and paid for. So if the solution is whatever the Libertarian Party is offering, at least in my opinion, you agree with it, maybe you should consider registering with the Libertarian Party, become a registered voter of the Libertarian Party so that our party grows, whether at the state level and then become a member of the National Libertarian Party, whatever you got to do. But most importantly, become a registered voter with the Libertarian Party and vote Libertarian. And I think and even if you don't want to do that, vote for the Libertarian Party if you can. Support the Libertarian Party and its candidates. Spread the message. Share it on social media. Whatever. And so I recognize, because here's the deal, right? If we don't do that, we're going to continue to have the same problems we're already having. More national debt, probably more state debt, more whatever, right? And on top of that, we're probably going to be more inclined to go to war and beat other countries up, and all this imperialism that we're doing, stopping Iran from trading with other countries and having all these embargoes and tariffs. That is not what the Libertarian Party supports. That's what the Democrats support. That's what the Republicans support. That's what the conservatives support. That's what the liberals support. That's what anybody who's not independent, who's educated on that, supports. So I'm going to give you the education if you want it. Vote Libertarian, We're the only party that cares about all of your freedoms and civil liberties and all of your rights all the time. We're not like Alex Jones. Oh, we got to support Trump because Roger Stone said so. Okay, the Libertarian Party doesn't play that game. We libertarians don't play that game. We're not going to come up with a conspiracy theory for every issue that we can't win, right? If we lose an election, you never hear us come up with a conspiracy theory that says, oh my gosh, the Republicans, the Democrats, they did this to us, they did this, and this, and it's a big conspiracy and this and that. But every time a Democrat wins or loses, or every time a Republican loses or wins or whatever, it's always these conspiracy theories about Russia. Now with Trump having lost the 2020 elections, what comes out? Oh yeah, it was a coup. The insurrection was partly done by Democrats. Because nobody on the right wants to take responsibility. And I get that they want to support Trump and the Republican Party, but they got to be outvoted. And the only way they're going to be outvoted is if more and more people, more and more independents realize that their vote does count, that their vote does matter, and that they can vote third party and not waste their vote. It's that simple. Because let's say 3 million independents vote for the Libertarian Party. That's 3 million votes that we libertarians get. And if the Democrats want those votes, or if the Republicans want those votes so badly, then they need to have better candidates that go along with what we want. They got to kiss our bahoonies. And if they're not willing to do that, then they don't deserve our votes. Should we not vote for them? And they shouldn't complain about, oh, well, you just voted for freaking Biden or you voted for Trump because you didn't vote for our team. All right? Because that's beyond tribalism. That's government-run tribalism supported by the media, and that's a bunch of garbage. Now, humans are tribalists by default, but by default, we're not racist. We're not a bunch of bigots. We know what's going on, so we should probably support the party that's going to give us more freedom and more the ability to trade with people around the world in other countries, you know? But that's not what's happening. We don't have free trade. We don't have a pure capitalistic free market system because what we have is corporate welfare and corporatism. What we have is more of the same garbage and all that mixed with socialism and big government. But big government, only goes so far. Think about the stimulus payments that were made. The corporations got the bulk of it with a slash fund and all that. And we're lucky we just get peanuts from it. We're lucky we get what? Maybe $1,000, if that. Maybe $200-300 a month of stimulus money. If we lose our job or whatever through no fault of our own, because we get laid off and we get unemployment, we might get about a fraction of what we made at work, right? So, but we don't get the same amount of money that all the corporatists and the corporations get. And who creates that division? The government. Why? Because the government picks and selects winners and losers. And if you're the loser, and most particularly small businesses and individuals often are the losers, the poorest of the poorest. The government gets in the way of progress, and these are the problems that we end up with. Now, contrary to most popular belief on the left and the right, big government doesn't work, never has, never will. But I'm not saying, oh, let's throw away the government. But what I'm saying is, the bigger it is, the less effective it is. We entrust government to protect our rights and to protect us from corrosion, force, violence, and fraud. And, other than that, outside of that, maybe Social Security for the time being. But outside of all that, we don't want government telling everybody and anybody what to do, picking winners and losers, and over-regulating, over-taxing, and all this other garbage that goes on with the government. But it happens because we allow it to happen. Because we get too scared to vote for the party we want, and we end up voting for a Democrat or a Republican and basically joining the crowd because the media said so, because One America News said so, or because Fox News said so, or because CNN said so, or MSNBC. And the liberal media is not the only entity in town for media, because you also have the conservative media that in turn kisses the bahoonies of the Republican Party. And if the Republican Party's response, or if Trump's response for that matter, since it's become the party of Trump, is more wars, more debt, more overregulation and taxation, but let's disguise it as less government, that's not going to hold water. Because when we want less government, we're not going to sit there and want a brand new F-35 jet. What has that got to do with less government? Or we're spending billions and billions of dollars on a military-industrial complex. We're spending billions and billions of dollars on corporations and on Israel. And what does Israel do? Goes after innocent Palestinian men, women, and children, at least according to Richard Medhurst and some of the other people that study that what's going on in the Middle East. And a lot of it has to do with American, Israeli, and British imperialism. And we as Americans don't have to be a part of that system. Okay? It could just be Israeli and British imperialism, and then we can say, look, guys, what you guys are doing is wrong. But we don't do that. We join with them. And they're the ones that are kicking all these, at least on the Israeli side of what's going on in the Middle East. They're kicking everybody out of their homes, bulldozing their homes, and creating these settlements for their own people. You know, the Israeli people. They're occupying almost all of Palestine and parts of Jordan and other countries. Like, I think a small part of Syria is under their control, right? And that's a problem. It's a problem that they're being brutally occupied by the Israelis, and then we have to sit there and give them tens of billions of dollars. Because in a sense, it's not the politicians that are supporting them, it's us, the taxpayers. And we don't have a choice in the matter because unless we vote Libertarian. And here's why. If we elect a Democrat and a Republican, you know damn well our taxes are going to go on Israel. That's the bottom line. And if it goes on Israel, then what do we do? We're rewarding bad behavior because we didn't have to elect the parties that are doing that in this country. We didn't have to elect politicians and a president that sits there and says, Iran, you can't trade with North Korea. We don't have to elect those people. And so that's my solution. Now, I get that. Okay, that's my solution. Vote Libertarian. You know? And look, you know, whatever Israel and Palestine do, that's on them. But we should not reward bad behavior. And more often than not, our consumers should be making these kinds of decisions, you know, not the government. So even if you support what Israel's doing, fine. Then you pay for Israel out of your money and your pocket. And don't expect we the taxpayers to pay for it. Now, and then if you're against that kind of behavior of what they're doing, at least then we're not shoving our money into the federal government for them to use on Israel. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to do anything to make our country safer. What that's going to do is give us more enemies, and then they're going to have more opportunities to attack us economically or through cybersecurity, whatever the case may be. So this is something to think about, guys. I'm not, you know, I'm just saying, look, if we vote Libertarian, we won't have these kinds of issues. And I'm not saying, you know, don't buy from Israel, but be mindful of what's going on. And then ask yourself, do you really want to elect politicians that are going to turn around and take your money that you worked hard for with your work and then spend it on Israel? The government's taking your money with taxes. Think about it. The government taxes you when you work or whatever. They take your money and give it to Israel, and Israel's doing what they're doing. Is that what you want to support? And if you don't want to support that kind of behavior, then maybe it's time to vote for the Libertarian Party. We seek a world of peace, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want to, you know, have enemies. We don't want to just go to war and bomb all these countries and have all these trade embargoes and tariffs and limitations, and because tariffs and embargoes are taxes that we pay for. It does nothing to it does nothing to constrain the powers of the dictators of some of these countries, and instead it makes the people of those countries more poor, more impoverished, and it does nothing to solve the problem. And I think what will solve the problem is us minding our damn business and then letting the consumers decide via free trade which countries they want to support and buy products from and which countries they don't. And I think the Libertarian Party is worth a shot. So, if you support the Libertarian Party, you also check the Libertarian Party out on its website, lp.org. And if you live here in New York State, please check out lpny.org. You'll find, between those two major sites, you'll find a whole bunch of content and information regarding the Libertarian Party and so on and so forth. And, So, anyways, it's now 7:50, close to 8 o'clock. I'm Michael J. Long, and this is part 2 on why you should join the Libertarian Party. So at 7:50 p.m., I'm Michael J. Long, host of Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party on June 25th of 2021, as I've mentioned earlier. And thank you for joining me. I truly and sincerely appreciate it, guys. And if you guys can, please subscribe. It really matters. Comment, like, share, blah, blah, blah. And stay tuned for this coming Monday. Going to have an awesome video for you guys. I'm going to interview Don Danley of the Dutchess County Libertarian Party. It's going to be awesome, guys. So you're going to want to hit that subscribe button if you're interested in my content. All right. And thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.